Welcome back to Grok Talk. We have Max Abramson here with us. We were talking about the Mark Richardson mistrial. Just a small piece of the criminal justice issue in the state of New Hampshire, and of course ties to our always reliable Attorney General. And the prosecutorial court system, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. We've spent a lot of time talking about how horrible it is.
Adversarial system. Mm-hmm. Dick Marple spoke to me and he said, you know, New Hampshire has one of the most corrupt judiciaries in the country.
It does.
Representative Dick Marple. And he's right on with that. And the problem is trying to reach the voters and let them know that we, the platform Republicans, the freedom wing of the party, are working very, very, very hard to try to expose corruption, get rid of bad judges, prosecute serious cases, and open the whole system up, let the sun shine in, let the scrutiny shine in. And yet, the Jaspercrats and the Democrats are voting as a bloc, on one hand, to prevent any bill from going through, HB 214, which would have required that police officers, if they witness criminal conduct like that, report criminal conduct, or they would be guilty of a violation or misdemeanor themselves. Would require that supervisors fire police officers when they're caught doing things that are illegal, dishonest, criminal on the job. We had two bills go through, and ironically, they both went through the House Criminal Justice Committee, and ironically, both of them were fought by the law enforcement lobby and by two former police chiefs, Officer John Thole, who's a Jaspercrat, a longtime Jasper supporter, and Linda Sesa, who's a Democrat, who was a former Portsmouth police chief. So you have these former police officers there. Four of the members of the Criminal Justice Committee are former cops themselves, or they're related to cops. So they're the ones who are fighting any effort at police accountability.
Right, and that's on a statewide level. I mean, whilst I was suggesting it might be poetic justice for the citizens to get together and take their pitchforks and torches down to the police station and demand change, more seriously, what you need is an activist movement in the town to pack the Board of Selectmen and insist that the police department is remade.
That's a good point. The problem is in Seabrook we have 3 selectmen, and none of them want to stand up to the police union. The police union is very powerful even after cases like this. They have an extreme amount of political power even though there are hardly any police officers living in town. There's so many people who are closely connected with this good old boy network that they have. Of course, the town jobs, the no-bid contracts, the buddy-buddy system that exists in almost every town.
So the town is policed by outsiders, and the selectmen have no say in it?
Pretty much.
But what if the selectmen do appoint the police chief, correct?
Well, they are in effect told who to appoint.
So, but if you manage to turn over all of the selectmen,
which would be virtually impossible, we managed to get Brendan Kelly on, who is a libertarian who served as selectman for a couple of terms, and I thought he did a pretty good job. But when you're 1 vote out of 3, you can't do very much, and the worst part is that we have a town manager form of government, which means the town manager gets appointed. Some guy who comes up from Massachusetts, who's now double-dipping, taking the Mass pension system and the New Hampshire pension, coming for the New Hampshire vested pension. And they're appointed for 3 years, and there's very little accountability there. So you could get elected to selectman, and the town manager's running the town for the whole 3 years that you're in there.
No option to recall for corruption?
Nope. And that's one of the areas where we have to have changes in statute where the voters can remove a police chief or remove a town manager, or remove an official who's not on the up and up.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you don't want the criminals to be able to remove the police chief, but if the majority of the town votes for that, there's a problem. There has to be a smoking gun, possibly literally, when there are, if you can get a majority of the townspeople. And so perhaps that's the right way to look at it. I'm blessed to live in a town where the police are pretty good guys.
What town is that?
That's Hollis.
I think most of the police officers, certainly a majority of police officers and state troopers in New Hampshire, are good officers.
Yeah.
But when you get a bad one, that's That's the one who's in the news. That's the one who sticks out. That's the one who people talk about. And that's what people remember.
Right. So it behooves the police to police themselves in that case and remove,
particularly in the current climate,
to remove those handful of bad ones, so that they can't do this.
And they're not going to, because police officers who police the police, who report bad conduct by other officers, are the ones who your family member calls the police and the police don't show up. You know, you as a police officer, in the same way I was on the receiving end of retaliation for a long time, you as a police officer would be on the receiving end of retaliation. There are police officers who go to jail, and they're almost always police officers who were pointing the finger saying, hey, that's corruption. Hey, you've got the police chief trafficking in illegal drugs. You've got, you know, these police officers roughing people up almost every night. You've got police officers filing bogus charges or planting drugs on people. And even when they finally get it on video, there was a police officer at a traffic stop who was caught by his own dash cam videos stuffing drugs down the guy's pocket. It was about to go to trial. The defense attorney caught the video, and it went on the news, and it became a national sensation for a short time. But the guy got caught. He got fired. He was prosecuted. I don't know if he ever went to jail for it. But the thin blue line is alive and well. Mark Preston, the officer who I defeated in the November election, you know, he had his drunk driving incident, and he was so drunk that he destroyed 2 vehicles, sent 2 people to the hospital, threw his badge on the seat, walked away, and expected to be covered by the Brotherhood, as he said. He's arguing with the cop and saying, you better not come through Seabrook. You know, if you're going to arrest an officer just for causing a drunk driving accident, they believe they're exempt, and they think that they've got a right to just ignore the law and ignore people's rights and just do whatever they want, make up their own laws. And that's just the attitude that a lot of them have.
That stinks.
And that's why the laws have to be changed, and that's why we have to vote independently. That's why we have to look at the voting records. That's why we have to vote out politicians like Linda Sesa and John Thole. Whether they run as a Republican or Democrat, we have to toss them out.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said run as, because that's the problem with some of our Republicans, is that they run as Republicans. They're not.
Well, they're politicians who find that it's politically expedient to...
Right at the end of the table, ma'am.
Cool. More guests.
Emily Sandblades here. We'll be talking to her in the next segment. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So the next big issue is the special election that was going in Seabrook and Hampton Falls for Rio Tilton. Elena Hearn is running. She has a 0.0% voting record with the House Republican Alliance, which indicates, since no other Democrat has that, it indicates she's going in with the pink sheet, and she's just automatically voting against the pink sheet. She's voting against the Republicans every time. Most of the Democrats have 20, 25, 30% scores.
Which means they're thinking instead of just reacting.
Right.
So
well,
pink sheets should turn into pink slips automatically.
That's her. She's made so many public and I think negative comments against conservatives, Tea Partiers, libertarians, everyone who's conservative, and she has voted 100% of the time for, you know, big government liberalism and anti-state policies that, and she's rubbed so many people the wrong way, and she's developed such a reputation as a busybody, which is probably the worst thing that you can be called. That it would be difficult to imagine seeing her come back from nowhere versus 19-year-old Rio Tilton, who is pretty widely known. He just graduated from Winnicott High School. And
can help her with her wire there.
Yeah, hang on. Get the microphone the right side of the wire.
Rio is definitely a conservative, and he's of course lifelong Republican, even though he's 19. I'm not sure he's voted Republican a lot of times because he's only had about a year.
He is officially 19 now.
I think he's turning 19 this month.
Okay, so because that'll be another 19-year-old, because he had the shot at being the younger, because Yvonne is 19 and.
Well, but she's 19 and a half, so he'll be 19.1. But the election is the special election.
19 and 1/12.
Is July 7th at the Seabrook Rec Center, and of course Hampton Falls has theirs at the town hall. And we have, of course, volunteers coming together, and we have a campaign that we're working on out there to try to get people out.
Have the Borg showed up yet?
I think the Democrats are going to pour a lot of resources into this. Now, unfortunately, this is a border town, and a lot of the Democrats if you remember the Carl Gibson case, he's an out-of-state activist who came in. They'll come in, they'll pour the resources in, and I think they've lost 2 special elections despite pouring a lot of their resources in. But the problem is we're on the border, so they have all of Massachusetts to draw from to come into our district and vote. Now, Seabrook and Hampton Falls are both pretty good at policing that kind of thing, but the illegal voting, we have our video cameras ready to, as we did with the last election, we have our video cameras ready to catch people with out-of-state plates coming in and voting that day. And, of course, they'll be reported and they'll be posted online, and all the Democrats who say that voter fraud is a GOP lie will be posting that online and posting video to follow along with that.
Sounds like you need a couple of people with one of Skip's favorite toys, the Looksy.
Well, everyone has cell phones these days. Although
that's true.
There was a news story. I think it was debunked that police are being given a device, a Dazzler or something like that it was going to flash bright lights very quickly.
I saw that somewhere. I remember seeing that.
But it sounds like something they would do.
They sound weird.
But it was to try to
there we go.
defeat cell phone cameras.
Or make it so the video was unusable. Interesting.
Technology so you can hide what you're doing. Excellent.
Right.
We're going to go a little long because...
a couple of little concealed cameras, because ideally what you want to be doing is standing in the parking lot, spot the out-of-state plate, and walk in behind the person and watch them take a ballot.
Of course, you can't videotape them inside without telling them you're doing it, so it's, not in New Hampshire anyway. Unless you've got a big sign on you that says, I'm recording you, you could get in a heck of a lot of trouble for that, and the Attorney General would prosecute that.
You know what you do is you wear a T-shirt saying, I am recording everything around me, and their eyes will glide right off it. They won't see it.
That's true.
But you told them. Guarantee you, if a sign's obvious enough, people don't notice it.
Yeah, when I wear my Cop Block T-shirt, everyone recognizes it.
We are going to take a short break, because we didn't have to make a phone call, and it's going to start in a couple of seconds. Let me turn off some headsets so people don't start making all kinds of funny noises. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
Raw Talk.